In your life, you deserve to be more, do more, have more, and give more. And now the Becoming More podcast with Dianna Kokoszka.
I am excited today to bring you Becoming More, a podcast where we learn from other people on all the things that they have accomplished, more importantly, what got them there that you can learn from. Now, be sure and hit that subscription button down there so you never miss an episode. Today, I am with my friend Jeff Henderson, who is an entrepreneur, speaker, pastor, and business leader. For 17 years, he has led 3 of North Point Ministries multi-site locations in Atlanta, Georgia. He's Buckhead Church and 2 Gwinnett Church locations. He also helped launch North Point Online, which now reaches over 200,000 people. We are just so excited that you're with us today. Thank you, Jeff. It's great to have you here with us, Jeff.
Dianna, always good to see you. Big fan of yours, and I'm honored to be on the podcast.
You know, it wasn't that long ago that we were together and your daughter was there. In fact, I've heard you speak probably 7, 8 times, and I just keep coming back because you're just that good. You know, Forbes magazine, I know, said that you were one of 20 speakers that everybody should go and listen to. Now that's quite an accomplishment because there's a lot of speakers out there each and every day. What did you feel like when you heard that news? I mean, one of the top 20.
Yes, when I got that news, I was thinking, or did you call the right Jeff Henderson? Because there's there's a Jeff Henderson that won a gold medal. There's a chef Jeff Henderson, but they said, no, we're actually talking about you. So I'm like you, Dianna. I've just been around great communicators and great leaders. So there's a stewardship responsibility that you have when you're being around great leaders and communicators is to learn from them. And the first one in my life was my dad. I'm a preacher's kid, so I saw my dad speak 3 times a week. So so I really felt very, very honored, but I also felt like it was a way for me to say thank you to the people and other communicators and leaders in my life who have really helped develop me. So they've been great.
You know, isn't that true? We all have mentors. John Maxwell's been one of mine. That's actually how I got to meet you the first time. And we've become great friends. And every time I have a chance to listen to you speak, man, I'm right there. I even drove down to Houston one day to see you at the Locan group.
That was fun.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, to make certain that I got to learn from you about this book. Your best-selling book, by the way, Know What You're For. Think about that, folks. As you listen to this has launched a movement in nonprofits around the world and has become a focal point for many businesses, including my own. I speak about this book a lot, Jeff. What was it that cost you to actually write this book?
I was having breakfast with a mentor, and I just mentioned to him, Dianna, that I've been really blessed to work for some thriving, growing organizations. And he gently pushed back. He agreed and said, yes, you have been blessed, but there's a stewardship responsibility, and you need to tell us what you've learned. And I thought, oh, wow. And he goes, and if you could write it down, that'd be helpful. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. So I reflected, and it really came down to really being clear about who and what we're for and what we want to be known for. And my favorite definition of this word is to be in favor of. I think every organization, whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, every leader needs to be really clear about who and what we want to be known for and what we're in favor of. And so that led me to 2 questions that I've seen organizations, whether they have the language or not. Here's what they've done. They've asked the question, what do we want to be known for? That's our vision. That's our, Steve Jobs would say, our dent in the universe. And then the second question is, what are you known for? And the reason those 2 questions were important to me is that if the answers to those 2 questions match, if what you want to be known for, that's your vision, is exactly what you're being known for, then you're going to harness the greatest form of growth, the greatest engine growth that any organization has, and that's positive word of mouth advertising. And I call that vision carriers, people that take your vision and tell other people about you and what you're doing. And so that's what I've seen organizations do. That's what I've seen leaders do. And, part of my premise is in a world that's often known for what it's against, let's be a group of leaders known for who and what we're for. And I've seen John Maxwell do that, and I've seen you do that. And as I saw other organizations around the world begin to apply these principles, that's when I was encouraged to write the book.
Weren't really doing that. They were knowing what they were standing for in their own mind. Their expectations as a leader was in their mind, yet wasn't in the people. And how many people did you find they knew what they wanted to stand for, yet that is not what they were known for?
Well, that's really what that second question is about. Is like, here's what you're known for. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that's what I was known for. Or, I've told people that when you ask, here's what I want to be known for, what am I known for? You're going to get three pieces of information. You're going to get some encouraging information, you're going to get some surprising information, and you're going to get your feelings hurt, because there's always a gap. There's a gap in every area of life. In fact, I encourage leaders, don't just do this for your business, do this for you. I have a statement of what I want to be known for as a dad. But I have to go ask my kids, here's what I want to be known for. Is that what I'm being known for right now in the season of life with you? And every single day is an opportunity for me to shrink the gap. But I also encourage leaders to do a vision inventory, to walk around and ask people, what do you think we need to be known for? And what do you think we want to be known for? And if you get a variety of different answers, or if you get blank stares, or if you get some complicated answers, the dashboard, the warning light on the dashboard of the organization should be blinking, because when there's confusion in the office space, there will be confusion in the marketplace. And but I honestly think sometimes we're so busy that we don't pull out and carve out time to go, okay, what do we want to be known for? Because it's a simple question, which is great news, but it's not an easy question. And language is really important. I mean, this can't be a 17 paragraph mission statement that we came up with on a retreat 5 years ago that nobody can recite or remember, because what we're talking about is vision, and vision's like a bucket of water. The more words there are, the more the words fall out. So there's got to be just, and John Maxwell's the master of this. He should, John talks in plaques. We're like, wow, we should put that on a plaque. Wow, we should put that on a plaque. So there are people that are naturally gifted like that. But so I think when it comes to this, there's vision casting, there's wordsmithing, but there's a lot of deep thought.
In your book, one of the things that captured me was the fact that you said, when purpose lives in an organization, the organization lives in purpose. So we're talking about casting vision here. How often should we be casting that vision as leaders?
Great question. I really believe that leaders are repeaters. And the question that I want to carry around with me as a leader is, what did I do today to cast vision from my organization? I think that's a great business building question. And you're the expert at that, but you're the expert at so many things. But what did I do today to build my business? The operative word is today. And many times, and I understand this because, there's the pace of business, there's the pace of organizational and leadership life, but part of the most significant role as a leader has is he or she is the vision caster, and they've got to create more and more vision carriers. And so you have to model the vision, you have to say the vision. Leaders are repeaters over and over and over again, and you have to celebrate it, because what you reward gets repeated. And so you have to reward and elevate and celebrate and model the vision, because here's what happens: vision drifts. Vision doesn't automatically just stay and grow. You have to stay on mission and vision. And yeah, you need to say it fresh, but I don't think you have to use new words all the time. You just have to celebrate it, model it. And if you do not put vision on repeat, it'll be quickly forgotten. So the way I say it is, vision rarely repeated is quickly forgotten.
That's good. I hope that our listeners wrote that down, because when we have that vision, it's almost like we're standing in the gap between where we are and where we desire to be. What are some techniques that you know of that maybe you can fill that gap as quickly as possible, or build that bridge from one place to the other?
I think leveraging the conversations with people and reminding them and in your one-on-ones to go, hey, just as a reminder, here's what we want to be known for. Or as a reminder, I saw this story and this illustrates what we want to be known for. So I think storytelling is a huge part of this. Steve Jobs said the storyteller wins. And so sometimes as leaders, if we're not careful, we can talk in bullet points and data. And bullet points and data are important, but bullet points and data rarely inspire. And I want to inspire people. Now, if you could take bullet points and data and connect it to vision and inspiration and stories, that's awesome. So as a leader, I would ask the question, how often am I talking in stories? How often am I talking in vision? How often am I talking with language that motivates and inspires? And how am I celebrating what's going on around here? Because again, as I mentioned, what gets rewarded gets repeated. So leveraging what I call leadership patterns. Those are weekly patterns, monthly patterns, and quarterly patterns. And I tried to think in those patterns and daily patterns. I tried to think in those patterns to go, and another pattern, as I mentioned, was what did I do today to build my business? What did I do today to cast vision for the organization? What are 3 ways that I can reinforce the vision this week? And on a monthly basis, I think you're celebrating it. And then on a quarterly basis, you're adjusting it a little bit. But when we came up with this whole 4 idea at the church I was pastor of, I gave everybody a sticker and said, I want you to put this on your laptop. Every time you open your laptop, I want you to see this. And it said, what did I do today to cast vision for Gwinnett? Because the church was Gwinnett Church. So every time you open up your laptop, it was a reminder that what did I do today? Was I too busy? And these are little small things. It could be a handwritten thank you note. It could be a text message. It could be something you post on social media, but it's a reminder that here's what we're about. Here's what we want to be known for.
It's interesting because adding value is something that both you and I love to do. And at 7 a.m., my phone goes off with an alarm. What will you do today to add value to others? At 7 p.m., it goes off and says, what did you do today to add value to others? We all need those reminders. I don't care if you're the leader or you're a follower of someone, even though you're a leader in your own right, you lead yourself.
Right.
You brought up so many things there. I know you because of thank you notes. You are known. How many do you write every single day, Jeff?
Well, my goal is to write 1 a day. But sometimes those go to 5 or whatever. But yeah, but that's my goal is I want to write. And I've just seen the impact of it. It's been pretty remarkable I just got a text just before we came on the air with the podcast of a note that I'd written someone. So, and again, you don't do that. And you do this so well too, Dianna. You don't do it to get a reaction, but you're like, you know what, and I was taught by a friend of mine that said, hey, don't ever talk yourself out of warm-hearted impulses. And so that's my goal.
Again, that's great.
And don't ever talk yourself out of warm-hearted impulses. Like I should probably get around to writing that personal letter sometime. All right, that's a warm-hearted impulse, but I should probably get around to is not a system. I need a system. And so my system is I've got note cards with me in my backpack. I have it in my journal and it's there with me. And then I have a list of all the handwritten notes I've written this year just to kind of scroll through it to see all that I've done. And sometimes I go from 1 to 5, but it's just it's those small things that add up and make a difference over time. And it's the John Maxwell version to me. Handwritten thank you notes are the version of, as John says, walk slowly through the crowd. Don't race through the crowd. Walk slowly and stop. And then there's a principle here as well that as leaders we'll never have enough time, but we will have leadership moments that are scattered through the course of every day. And just be cognizant that interaction, that thank you note, that text message, those what we think as leaders is small. But what I've discovered is that those notes, those moments of encouragement, that walking slowly through the crowd and seeing people and talking to them, that's never small when you're on the receiving end of it. And every day is an opportunity for us to do that. And we don't do this because it builds the business, but it builds the business. And that's not a bad reason to do this.
You know, what's interesting, I was just on a Zoom call. It was an hour-long call, and during that call, your name came up because of the thank you notes. So these are people that they don't really know you that well, yet we were talking about how much a thank you note means to people and how we don't get enough of them. And your name came up. He's always
Wow.
writing thank you notes. And I thought, isn't that a great thing to be known for? Something that you probably didn't even write down to be known for, yet because of the consistency that you've done it, you're now known for it. And what you brought up there, I loved that you wrote down all of them. I just want to say, to me, it's like a victory log to remind us of some of the good things we do when a day goes by that maybe it wasn't so great, that we've had some challenges. You can look at that list and say, well, at least I did for one that I wish I could do for everyone. And that isn't an exact quote from your book, yet it's in your book. Do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. So other than thank you notes, give us an example of maybe something that you've done or that you've heard of someone that has done for one that they wish they could do for everyone.
Well, fortunately for me, I've had a long history with Chick-fil-A, and they have what they call second mile service, which is they want to have great food, but they want to serve the customer really, really well. And second mile service is actually based on a Bible verse, Matthew 5:41, and to go the second mile. So Jesus tells a story where if a Roman soldier asks you to take their bag for a mile, don't just take it for a mile, take it for 2 miles, because take it for 2 miles. What? It's just not a category for them. And yet you'll leave an imprint on them. So that's one of the things that Chick-fil-A wants to be known for, is going beyond, above and beyond. And those small interactions, going out of your way. And you don't have to go completely out of your way. Sometimes going completely out of your way is great, but just going out of your way a little bit, that's the intentional, like, wow, you can't do that for everyone. So you did that for me. That's amazing. And that filters down. I heard just an incredible story just a few days ago of 4 Chick-fil-A team members in North Carolina. Their community was hit by the hurricane. And so Chick-fil-A had power, and power was coming back. And so people were just flooding to any restaurant that was open. So they worked a full day shift, right? And so they went across the street to Waffle House. Well, Waffle House, their workers weren't able to be there as much because they were still recovering from the hurricane as well. So these Chick-fil-A employees who'd already worked their full day at Chick-fil-A got up and started bussing tables and went and helped the cook at Waffle House with their Chick-fil-A stuff on. And there it is. And they didn't do it to necessarily get notoriety, but I'm telling you, that story has spread like wildfire throughout the Chick-fil-A organization. And it's like, okay, they can't go work at Waffle House every day, but you know what? They said, hey, this is our community, and this person's all by themselves, and they need help, and there's a bunch of customers here. Let's just get up and serve. I love that story. I love that.
I love, because you know what? Isn't it interesting how good deeds, they should be the norm, yet they really aren't. Going that extra mile sometimes is not that difficult. When we think more about the customer than we do about our business, that's when things actually start turning around for certain. Hey, I started thinking of something though that I love about, I heard in one of your speeches. You took a moment that was such a drastic failure at one point, and it turned around to be one of the shining moments in your life. Could you share with us how we can take something that is such a failure and turn it around?
Sure. Well, it goes back to my marketing career at Chick-fil-A. I was over, part of what I did was regional marketing. And at the time, Chick-fil-A was primarily in the Southeast. And so we did sports sponsorships in collegiate sports. The distinguishing characteristic of a Chick-fil-A customer was that they have a college degree. And so that's one of the reasons college sports really leveraged or seemed like a good strategy for us. So anyway, I helped do all of that. And we sponsored a college football game called the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Still in Atlanta, still a big game every year. And So this was back in the Georgia Dome days. We have a new stadium now. We have a tendency to blow up stadiums in Atlanta because we don't ever win. And so we just get mad and blow up the stadium. So we have Mercedes-Benz Stadium now, but this is 20 something years ago with the Georgia Dome. And we were preparing for the game. The game's at the end of the year. And I had an idea of placing a Eat More Chicken plush cow in all of the cup holders at the Georgia Dome, but I didn't have money in my marketing budget to pay for it. And here's a business principle: when you don't have something, go ask for it. At some point you're going to get told no a lot, but if you keep asking, eventually you'll find a yes. So I went and asked the founder of Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, my business hero, hey, I got this great idea: 72,000 cup holders, 72,000 cows, 72,000 fans that can eat more chicken, but I don't have money in my budget to pay for this. But rumor has it your 401k is fully funded. And so what I want you to do is write a personal check. So Truett, incredibly generous man, most generous person I've ever been around, but he grew up in the Great Depression. And so he was kind of convinced the Great Depression was right around the corner. So he could hold on to a dollar. So we had a great conversation, and he finally agrees, okay, let's do this. So the game begins. And by the way, it took us 3 days to get these cows in the cup holders. So the game begins. And it's the University of Georgia versus University of Virginia. And Virginia gets up real quick in the first quarter, 21-0. And so the Georgia fans, and I'm a Georgia graduate, so I'm concerned, are we going to get blown out here at this game? And so Georgia drives down the field. They get close to the end zone, but an official drops a penalty flag, effectively ending that drive. And the fans in the Georgia section lose their minds. And there's a guy in the end zone, and he gets so mad, he takes the cow and he throws it onto the field. And 20,000 of his closest friends in the end zone think that's a great idea. So they take their cows and throw it onto the field. And so I'm standing in the press box at the Georgia Dome, and I'm watching this happen, and I see my marketing career flash before my eyes. And they had to delay the game to sweep all the dead little cows off of the field. And I'm so horrified and embarrassed. I've wasted the founder of Chick-fil-A, my business here. I've wasted his money. One of the commentators said, who's the marketing genius that came up with this idea? And my boss walks up to me, and I know what he's going to say, because I don't blame him. He's going to say, it rhymes with "you're tired." And I didn't, I was thinking, well, maybe I could go work at Arby's, because, I could probably sell the beef and cheddar sandwich. I like that one, because my career here at Chick-fil-A is over. But David comes up, and there's the leadership principle here, and the leadership principle, and really a life principle, which is how you view life determines how you do life. How you view the situations in your life. It's really not, it's important what happens to us in our lives, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is your interpretation of what has happened to you. That's more important. And there are leaders that interpret, I'm not denying reality, but this isn't the worst thing. So David looks at this and he says, Jeff, there's an idea here. And I'm like, what? What are you crazy? What are you talking about? This is crazy. This is terrible. I'm so embarrassed. He said, well, first of all, the publicity value that we're getting out of this right now is enormous, which was true. They had stopped the game to talk about Chick-fil-A cows. So, but he said, hey, think about it this way. Is there a way to get the cows on the field in a different way at next year's game? So he and I and a few other people got together at the Chick-fil-A headquarters the next week, and we came up with this idea of I've got a box of parachuting cows behind me, putting parachutes on the cows and taking boxes and boxes and boxes and dropping parachuting cows onto the field when the two teams run onto the field. That was such a huge success that it's become a Chick-fil-A tradition for the last 20 something years. And the reason the reason I tell you that story is you asked me to, Dianna. And the second reason is that what I thought was the worst day in my marketing career actually ended up being one of my best. But it all had to do with a leader who was genuinely for me and in favor of me. And David's been a great friend ever since. So I would just encourage your listeners to ask this question: how are you viewing your current situation? What's the filter? And if you look at the situation and go, how could you turn it around? How could you take it from maybe a bad situation to maybe one of the best situations? A friend of mine asked it this way: how could you take this bad thing that it's happened and turn it to make it one of the best things that's ever happened in your life. And I think for the most part, most every situation in our life has that kind of potential, because how you view life determines how you do life.
You know, I love what you're saying here, Jeff, because the way that you view things, you're always about other people. I've watched you when we were at Chick-fil-A touring it. I watched you at Live to Lead when you were a speaker there. Over and over again, even at IMC down in Orlando, you're always looking and making certain that you're encouraging others. Your words are so intentional. One of the things that you said is what FOR stood for, is that you're in favor of. So when you are standing for something, in favor of, what happens to your standards, maybe your beliefs, or maybe being other focused? Does that get clearer for us?
Mm-hmm. One of the things I want to be known for, Dianna, is to be for the person that's right in front of me and to be engaged with them. And our phones can actually be a barrier between me and the people, between us and the people on the other side of us. And so I want to be as engaged as I possibly can. And that's not just with the people that I do life with, it's the people wherever I go. An example of this would be I want to tell the people that are bringing me coffee, or in the service industry, or when I get on a plane, I want to pause and thank the flight attendants and say, thank you for being here. And you should try that. All of your listeners should try that, because you're going to get the most befuddled, like, no, that's not how this works. I'm supposed to tell you, thank you for being here. But no. If you're not here, this plane doesn't get serviced, or I don't get my coffee, or I don't get this or that. And so thank you for being here. And that little statement has created some of the most amazing interactions. I did that on a Delta flight recently, and the Delta flight attendants brought me every single snack, a sample of every single snack, a Delta pen. And they're like, no one's ever thanked us for being here. We don't even know what that, but we don't have a category for that. But it's those small little things and so what that means is that we have to have a higher, a friend of mine calls it notice quotient. We just have to notice. And there are people that notice things about a business, or you notice things about an organization. That there's a friend of mine, he's a clean freak. And if he goes into the back hallway of an organization and it's not clean, he feels like, oh, that's an indication of something, But he's a noticer. He's a notice quotient. I don't notice those things as much as I notice people, and I want to be for the person in front of me. And so for me, I've got to make sure that, to your question, that I'm not getting distracted by technology or my own preoccupation with myself. And what I've discovered about myself is, and you mentioned self-leadership, if I can lead me, then everything else pretty much takes care of itself, because the most difficult person to lead in my life is me. And when I'm for others, what happens for me is it helps me to stop thinking about myself. And I hope the older I get, the less I think about myself. And there's the old adage that when there's a group picture and everybody goes, or somebody shows us the picture of, hey, look, here's us in the group picture. Who's the first person we look towards? What look for? It's us, right? Well, mentally, I'm not going to pick on everybody. I'll just pick on me. Mentally, that's the same for me. Like, I have a tendency to first think about me. Where's my seat on the plane, if you will? When are we going to get off this? Are we going to get off on time, or because I got to get back in time? All that, and a lot of this is out of their control. I want to pause, give my brain a break from thinking about me and my concerns and my comfort, and go, hey, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And so I just want to make sure that the distractions, the preoccupation with me, the things I got to get done for the day, that all of that is not wrong, not bad. It's part of life. but I don't want to go so fast in life that I miss the people that are actually a part of this. So so knowing that those little things, like we've talked about handwritten thank you notes, little things like, hey, thank you for being here. Those are just little things that take 3 seconds, but
Yeah.
the impact of it is really enormous.
Well, in the service industry, a lot of people have that entitlement mindset to where, well, they're getting paid to serve me. You have such a mindset of gratitude and thankfulness. If we could do that, it really would change society a lot. One of the things that you spoke about is how someone actually took the time to put something on social media, something about your daughter wanting to buy some tickets. And they actually took the time to think of you instead of just thinking of themselves. Could you share that story with us about her wanting to go to a concert? It's a great
Sure.
illustration.
And I think social media is, I think we probably all have a love-hate relationship with social media, but social media can have an impact. But social media to me is an indication of the heart of an organization, because in many ways, and I've shared this with a lot of organizations. I said, and if a business was a person, many businesses would be considered narcissists, because you look at their social media feed and it's like, do you see how great we are? We are so much better than our competitors. We're amazing. Are you kidding me? We're the best company ever. And I'm not saying we shouldn't promote our products. We shouldn't market our products. I'm a trained marketer, so I get all that. But the narcissistic tendencies that organizations have, and entrepreneurs have, to constantly talk about themselves, to me, is a limiter to their business. And social media is an indication of that. Most organizations, or I should say, many organizations, have a monologue with their customers on social media. They do not have a dialogue. And so, in essence, they are not doing social media, they are doing digital media. It's just a one-way conversation. It's just another ad channel. And so the story that you referenced, and again, if we have a listener and you're saying, well, I'm not a big company. I'm just, it's just me. Hey, you have a lot more ability to be nimble and to do what I'm actually going to describe. Because what I'm describing is in essence, a small company. So my daughter was in town. This is a few years ago. She was in town for the summer, interning for an organization, and they featured her on their Instagram page and said, this is Jessie Henderson. She loves this food. She loves to travel, and she's obsessed with a musical group, Johnny Swim. And Johnny Swim, it's a husband-wife duo, and they were coming to town. And my wife, Wendy, said, we should get tickets to go. I said, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And she said, hey, for an extra $50 a ticket, we can get backstage to meet them. I'm like, well, I'm not great at math, but I'm told 50 times 4 is $200. And we're already spending a lot of money on this young lady's college education. I don't know that I want to spend $200 on her college education. So terrible dad move, but my financial accountant would have been proud of me. So they featured Jessie on this Instagram page. And then our little text thread, we call Fam Jam, blows up. It's Jessie, my wife, my son Cole, and me. And with the letters OMG, she takes a screenshot, which she's a preacher's kid, that stands for, oh my gosh, looks what happened. And Johnny Swim had seen that post, and they responded back to her and said, well, we're obsessed with you too, Jessie. Thank you for being a fan. We love you. And so her friends saw it. They're texting her. It just made her day. And so I like to tell people, Dianna, guess what happened next? We bought the backstage passes, right? And so we get a picture with Johnny Swim, and they're smiling in the picture. And I show people the picture and say, you know why they're smiling here? Is they're $200 richer. But what that illustrates to me is that Johnny Swim wasn't content to just stay on their social media platform and say, hey, we just released a new song on Spotify, or we're coming to Atlanta. They need to tell us that, and we need to know that. But they weren't willing just to do that. They were willing to go off of their platform and engage with my daughter. And here's what they did. They turned me into a vision caster and a vision carrier. I put them in my book. I'm on your podcast, Dianna. I've been traveling around the country telling about this story. And do you know how much money they paid me to do that? Zero. but that's what happens when you see people and you notice them, and you, in this case, make their daughter's day. If you make my daughter's day, I'm going to do my very best to make your day. Now, you mentioned this principle earlier, because here's how we get talked out of this. Oh, Jeff, can't do this for everybody, so I'm not going to do it for anybody. I'm just going to play it fair. I can't do it for everybody, so I'm not going to do it for anybody. That is the land of stagnant organizations. That is the land where heartless organizations go to die, because they're not willing to go out of their way for at least one. And the principle that you referenced, I learned from Andy Stanley: do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. Because if you do that consistently, that adds up. I mean, I don't know how many handwritten thank you notes I have written, but it's usually one a day or sometimes three a day. But they add up. And so again, go back to that. Don't talk yourself out of warm-hearted impulses. Again, they can't respond to everyone on social media, but they can respond to somebody. And so when I launched our church in Atlanta, I would gather our guest services team together, and I say, hey, here's your goal for every single one of us, me included. Today, deliver wow to one person that you serve them so well, they go, wow, that's amazing. Like we would leave notes on the windshields of cars to say, hey, your left tire was a little low, so we filled it up, but you might need to get it checked this week because you might have a hole in your tire.
Oh my word. That's going the
Wow.
extra mile.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. But to go, okay, I got to do something, I got to deliver wow to somebody, and it's just one person. But if we collectively do that, we end up wowing a lot of people. So there is a system to this, right? Do for one, but there's also a heart and soul to this, to go, you know what, I am going to go out of my way. It might be a little bit, or maybe a lot. I may have to go out of my way a lot, but I am going to go out of my way in some form or fashion each and every day, because it's a way for me to show people that I'm for them. And that's what I've seen you do. I've seen you do that with so many leaders and so many organizations. And isn't it interesting, Dianna, that when people do that, how our streams just start flowing and connecting together? I just think that's interesting, as we start being for others. That's the Maxwell family world, the Maxwell leadership family world. That's just a group of leaders that want to add value to others, that add value to other leaders, and because they believe everyone deserves to be led well.
Well, and it's interesting because here Jessie wanted to go to a concert. This is such a great leadership lesson because she wants to go to the concert. You're not sure you want to go behind stage yet. Now you get a picture, everything starts going forward. You're the real smart dad, the hero in her life. And what did Cole think of that? Is it Cole your son? Wasn't he with you
Yes.
as well?
Oh,
What did
yes.
he say when all this was going on?
He usually just goes, Dad, you know. I think I stopped being cool with my kids many years ago. So, but Cole, he's a big Johnny Swim fan, probably not as big as a music fan as Jesse, but the idea of seeing them and then seeing how this translated into the book and what they did and obviously our kids grew up in the Chick-fil-A world and second mile service. So I've seen he just turned 23. And he's graduated from college. He's now in the working world, and I've seen him do these things. I've seen him go out of his way to try to do for one and to be for others. And it's just one of the best things that I love, because he's seen it. He's seen the impact of it, but he's also seen the fun of it, and that's why every single day is an opportunity for us to do this. And I love the fact that he texted me yesterday. There was a leader that met with him, and he said, "Hey, Dad, do you have his address? I want to write him a note." So I love all that. Now, I think the younger generation needs to work on their penmanship a little bit, but that's another for podcast, because they don't really write. They just kind of text. So I was like, okay, be sure you write legibly, but I love the fact, and they've seen this modeled by so many other leaders. I mean, what a gift it was for me to have Jesse there when you and John and some other leaders came in to tour Chick-fil-A. I love the fact that my daughter got to meet you, got to hang out with John and Mark Cole and these incredible leaders, and just kind of eavesdrop on a group of leaders that are trying to have an impact. Because the world, negative news sells and negative news hits the headlines. So you have to go out of your way a little bit to find leaders that are really for the world and making a difference. And so for my daughter to be able to meet you and hang out with John and Mark, oh goodness, what a gift.
I love meeting her, and she is amazing. One of the leadership principles you just taught us, though, it's like culture is caught, not taught. Your kids writing thank you notes because of seeing you write thank you notes. You didn't tell him, sit down and write a thank you note. It just came automatically to him because it was part of life. We're doing that every day. People are watching us as leaders. They're watching everything we do. And sometimes I say that audio isn't matching up with the video sometimes,
Oh,
which
that's
drives
great.
me crazy in a movie when the audio and video don't match. What are you finding out in the world, and how important is it for that audio and video to match up?
It's incredibly important. And here's why. People can smell inauthentic leaders. They can smell inconsistency. And that's not to say that we need to be perfect, that you can't make mistakes, that you can't have bad days or seasons. That's true for all of us. I mean, we've all been through a lot over the last 5 years with COVID and everything else. But the integrity really is important, and then the integrity really is just matching up with who you are and what. And I love your example. I'm gonna use that. I'll quote you. Um, but I've heard John say before, like, so if you hear, as my good friend Diana says, and then the next time it's like, someone said, or then the third time is, as I always used to say. So I'll give you a credit the first time. But the reason the audio and video are so important is because it's gives you credibility. Give you a quick example, and I'll try to make this really, really brief. I'm a big fan of technology, and I'm a big fan of artificial intelligence. I think Chat GPT and all that's incredibly helpful. My concern with it, though, is that there are a lot of content creators and communicators that are letting that write their talk. And the problem with that is great communicators understand that there is some pain to the journey. That's what you're speaking out of many times. Here's what I've learned personally in my life. And you're short circuiting that if you're relying too heavily on, I would say, artificial stimulants, if you will. And what happens in that moment is that the audio and video aren't matching up because you haven't really done the soul work for this message to really come out of your soul and really come out of your heart. Now, is there a word I can use? Is there a phrase I can use to make this clear? Totally on board with that. But the reason I say that is it's so important for our words and our content to match who we really are. And so if that's why if I mean, I have a stewardship responsibility. I wrote a book called Four. I got to live that out. And if I'm being against people, then that's the audio and video are inconsistent. Doesn't mean we always get along. Doesn't mean we don't have conflict. All that's, if you don't have conflict, you're not trying hard enough. But at the end of the day, if I'm not living this out, then it's a lost opportunity.
Oh, I love these quotes. I've literally taken 5 pages of notes. When I put my head down, it's like I'm writing as fast as I can. I love that leaders have to be authentic and transparent, allowing their heart to show. That's what makes leadership so good. And every leader that I've spoken with, they have defining moments. And I know that you've had a defining moment in your life. Could you share one with us?
Goodness, so many defining moments. I don't really know which to choose, but I'll say this. We talked about communicating and where I first was taught about speaking. That was with my dad. I started speaking when I was a junior in high school. And so imagine being able to speak, and we would travel around the state of Georgia and we would speak to churches. And I'm sure, Dianna, I gave some of the worst messages in the history of speaking, but it was such a great way for me to learn how to do this. And my dad was the number one voice of encouragement in my life. He passed away 13 years ago. And when Wendy and I started dating, and she'd travel to a few speaking engagements with us, and my dad would come up and say, "That's the greatest message I've ever heard." And Wendy would say, "You ever noticed your dad always says that's the greatest message you've ever heard?" I said, "Because it's true. What are you talking about?" So, but anytime we got in the car after one day that speaking, and he didn't say anything, and he was quiet. So we're getting down the road, go down the road a little bit, and this was a defining moment for me as really a not just a communicator, but a person, particularly at work. He said, "You weren't prepared today, were you?"
Ooh.
And I said, "No, sir, I wasn't." And he said, "Well, so here's what happened. People got up, they could have gone to breakfast, they could have gone played golf, they could have done lots of different things. But they decided to come and sit down and be quiet and listen to you. And that's a gift that they gave you. And when we're not prepared, we do not steward the opportunity and we disrespect them. So I would encourage you from now on, be prepared." Yes, sir.
Wow.
Dianna, I have no idea. I'm not good at math, as I mentioned. I don't know what the years, it's decades. I never forgot that. And if you were to talk to people, and this is going to sound like I'm patting myself on the back, but if you were to talk to people that I've worked with on production teams, at conferences, at churches, in fact, I just got an email this week from a church I'm going to go speak at in Nashville next weekend. They all say, "Thank you so much for your preparation. You're always ahead."
Mm.
Well, let me tell you how I learned that. I learned that in that defining moment. In fact, I could show you the email I just got from this church. "Thank you for being prepared. Thank you for sending your notes early. It helps our team so greatly." I go back to being in that car with my dad when I was 17 or 18 years old, and he was going, "You weren't prepared today, were you?" And so that was a defining moment for me, and not just speaking, but I think in life. Hey, as much as you can, be prepared.
That hit my heart the minute that you said that, especially thinking about my dad saying something, because they're kind of our hero, aren't they?
Oh, yes, yes.
I mean, it's so heartwarming.
But I appreciate the fact that he was able to confront me. And
Yeah,
because again, here's the thing, my dad was for me by saying, "Hey, I see potential in you as a communicator, but here's reality. You
yeah,
weren't
it's the
prepared."
care
And
and the candor. If we don't
yep,
have both, we can't really lead. Your dad took a stand for your greatness that day, and he was willing to say what needed to be said because he was a great leader, and he wanted to make certain that you understood what needed to be done. And I just trust our listeners are hearing that preparation as to what you've done. And I mean, reading your book over and over again and underlining it and making certain I knew I wanted you on this podcast. And I still have one more question for you. I know we're going over a little bit here, yet this is about becoming more, about whoever we're being, to constantly work on ourselves, to have growth and that self-development. So what are some of the things that you do personally for you to become more each and every day, whether it's in being a dad, a leader, or just life itself?
great question, Dianna. I really protect my mornings as much as I can for um, spiritual devotions, my health, um, looking and trying to focus on what's important. So, and I know not everybody can do this. So, what I'm about to say may be, well, that doesn't work for me. Totally understand. But one of my non negotiable, highest payback activities is to protect my mornings and to focus on my spiritual health, my physical health, which also helps my mental and emotional health. And one of the ways I do that is to write down the 3 wins of that day the night before, because a great day begins the night before. So when it comes to becoming more, by the way, that somehow that's going to rhyme, becoming more and a great day begins the night before. So you're much smarter than me. I'll let you figure that out. But so when I wake up, I pretty much know what the win is for that particular day. And what I mean by a high payback non-negotiable is I rarely ever do breakfast meetings. And because for me, I need that time selfishly, because that may sound selfishly, but actually one of the best things I can do, a friend of mine said, one of the best things I can do for you is to take really good care of me. And that's really true, because we all know this. If we have people in our circle of life, our families, if they don't take care of themselves, that irresponsibility will eventually become our responsibility. So one of the best things I can do for you is to take really good care of me. And the way I do that is to protect my mornings and get up early and have a workout, spiritual workout, focus, get that note written. And I try to read a chapter of a book a day, and um, and then ready to go. So now, am I perfect at that? Not perfect. I don't know that perfection is a standard, but am I consistent at it? I'm very consistent at that.
It's a habit that you form now. What happens with your day when you don't start a day like that?
I feel scattered and I feel busy but not productive. And when I do start a day like that, I feel more productive. I feel more focused, and I feel like when I get to the end of the day, we made movement, we gained traction, and we have to be careful as leaders to not equate busyness with results, and not to confuse action with momentum. Results and momentum are different than action and busyness, and so I have to be careful with that. Now, certainly, action and being busy leads toward that, but I want to get to the end of the day going, like, if I have less to do, but I get the right things done. But if I did a lot of things, but they weren't that important, but I got a lot of things done, I'm not sure I gained as much traction by being focused. And again, I'm thinking about an ideal day that, where no interruptions happen. I know that's not really life, but there's the constant battle between the urgent and the important. And the urgent is extroverted and very loud, and the important is quiet and very introverted and shy.
Such great lessons here. And I know that other people have taken a lot of notes. This is something that people are going to want to listen to more than once for certain. You've got your priorities in order when we understand what we stand for. That sounds like priority number 1. Did I get that correct?
Yes, it's great.
And once you know, I mean, you've written down to be what you're known for in business, what you're known for as a dad. Do you do this in various areas?
Yes, I encourage people to write down the different roles of their life and say, what do you want to be known for? And I try to communicate. First of all, no one has to see this. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be some pithy, incredibly crafted statement. It just has to be what you want to be known for. Like, to give you an example, for me, I want to be known for being an intentional, legacy leaving, memory making dad. That's what I want to do. I want to be
That's
really
great.
intentional. And like, before we went on air, I ran down to the mailbox and put in a Thanksgiving card to my daughter. She lives in Birmingham. And, but because Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, I send her Thanksgiving cards every month, which she probably doesn't like. I love it, but I'm just like, hey, it's April and we're that much closer to Thanksgiving, because she'll come in town. We have the whole week. I love it. But I want to be intentional about that. And I want to be memory making, because I know that she's collected all these Thanksgiving cards. And someday I won't be here, but she'll have a box of Thanksgiving cards written from me. And I want to be a legacy leaver, to go, hey, just like my dad left a legacy for me, I want to leave a legacy for them.
Yeah, I love the intentionality. So we've learned so much from you today, Jeff. Thank you so much. It's time I can never give back to you, yet you've given us so much. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. So listen to this over and over again and learn how to absolutely understand what you stand for. Write it down. Take a stand for your greatness, because too many listeners out there, you're taking a stand for those limitations that you placed upon yourself. Jeff and I believe in you. We may not know you, yet we believe in you. We know you have greatness in you. We know you've been given a gift. Please open it up and share it with the world. Thanks for sharing it with us today, Jeff. Really appreciate you, my friend.
My pleasure, Dianna. Big fan. Thank you.
In your life, you deserve to be more, do more, have more, and give more. And now the Becoming More podcast with Dianna Kokoszka.